Welcome to Hollywood Graveyard, where we set out to remember and celebrate the lives of those who lived to entertain us by visiting their final resting places. Today we're revisiting San Fernando Mission Cemetery, where we'll find such stars as Teri Garr, Candido, Dick Foran, and many more. Join us, won't you? San Fernando Mission Cemetery is a Catholic cemetery located in the northern end of the San Fernando Valley in Mission Hills, about 15 miles north of Hollywood. We first visited this cemetery way back in 2018. If you were with us then, we're excited to be back here with you all these years later to explore more of this cemetery and meet the entertainers of yesteryear who called this place home. If you haven't seen our first video tour of San Fernando Mission, be sure to check that out as well, where we visited stars like Ritchie Valens, Chuck Connors, William Frawley, and more. Lather on that sunscreen and bring plenty of water, because it is a hot one today here in the valley. We'll knock out one section at a time here at San Fernando Mission, beginning with Section C, the first section you reach on the left when entering the cemetery. Right next to the Western Road is a name familiar to you if you saw our Disney special. Say hello again to Candido. He was a musician, voice actor, and comedian known for his impressive vocal range. In fact, in the history of impressive vocal ranges, Candido was among the tops. He could span an almost inhuman 5 octaves, from basso profundo to squeaky high soprano, which he used to great comedic effect. A fun example of this range was performed in the novelty song One Meatball.
You get no bread
with one meatball. One meatball.
Audiences first met Candy on the radio, performing on Jimmy Durante's show and coining a national catchphrase, "I'm feeling mighty low." Candy took his vocal talents to the movies in the 30s. He voiced the angry apple tree in The Wizard of Oz, but audiences today likely know him best for his work at Disney. That low, gravelly voice was a perfect fit for gruff characters in films like Peter Pan, Sleeping Beauty, The Great Mouse Detective, The Black Cauldron, and Robin Hood.
The tournament of the Golden Arrow will now begin.
Candy died from natural causes at age 85. Circling around to the northern end of Section C, just south of the road near a large tree, we find a pair of unmarked graves. Next to the grave of his brother rests Charles Ruff, better known to film and TV audiences as Frank Faylen. The average Joe character actor is remembered for roles like Ernie the cab driver in It's a Wonderful Life, Keeney in Funny Girl, and Bim in The Lost Weekend. Television audiences remember him as Herbert T. Gillis, father of Dobie Gillis on the sitcom The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, in some 118 episodes. Frank retired in the 80s after appearing in more than 200 film and TV productions. He died from pneumonia in 1985 at age 79. Frank was married to actress Carol Hughes, best remembered for her role as Dale Arden in Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe. She also appeared in westerns like The Border Legion alongside Roy Rogers and Goldmine in the Sky with Gene Autry. Carol retired from acting in the 50s. She lived to be 85, passing away in 1995. Both Frank and Carol's graves remain unmarked. Just east of here, in the shade of the tree, is James Kern. He rose to fame singing in the popular musical comedy quartet The Yacht Club Boys. In the late 30s, early 40s, James transitioned into screenwriting, penning comedies and musicals starring the likes of Jack Benny, Bing Crosby, Lucille Ball, Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy, Ann Sheridan, and more. Then in the 50s, James made his mark on television. He became a prominent director, helming dozens of episodes of shows like The Joey Bishop Show, I Love Lucy, and My Three Sons. James died from pneumonia at age 57. Near a tree in the middle of this lawn, we find the grave of Alice Joyce. In 1913, during the silent era, Alice was named the most popular screen actress by the Motion Picture Story magazine. She was known as the Madonna of the screen for her ethereal beauty. Over her career, she starred in nearly 200 silent films, beginning in 1910. Later in her career, she played Clara Bow's mother in the 1926 hit Dancing Mothers, and starred alongside W.C. Fields in So's Your Old Man. Alice did appear in a few talkies, including the remake of The Green Goddess, but she essentially retired after the silent era. She lived to be 65. Well, let's head to the southeast corner of this section and spend some time with the little old lady from Pasadena. Kathryn Minner was a character actress who specialized in playing little old ladies, making her first acting appearance at age 65. It's never too late, folks. She appeared on shows like Dragnet, M Squad, My Three Sons, Batman, and Petticoat Junction. But her biggest claim to fame was playing the little old lady from Pasadena in 10 TV commercials for Dodge in the 1960s. The ad campaign would inspire a popular Jan and Dean song, The Little Old Lady from Pasadena, on the album cover of which Kathryn also appeared.
The little old lady from Pasadena. Go, Granny, go, Granny, go, Granny, go.
Kathryn died from a heart attack at age 77. Across the street south are the mausoleums and lawn crypts. This main building is the Padre Serra Mausoleum. Let's take a ride on a trusty mausoleum elevator up to the second floor. So, you guys enjoying your summer? Been to any interesting cemeteries lately? Let us know in the comments. Hey, be sure to stick around to the end of the video today. We'll tell you about 2 exciting events we're hosting in the months ahead, where we'd love to meet you. But for now, on with the tour. Up here we get a nice view of the cemetery below. A view enjoyed in eternity by, among others, James Bacon. As a writer, Bacon published a number of books chronicling Hollywood history, including Hollywood is a Four-Letter Town and a biography of Jackie Gleason. James was also an actor, frequently cast as reporters. Perhaps most notably, Bacon is the only actor to appear in all 5 films in the original Planet of the Apes series, playing an ape in 4 of them. James Bacon died from heart failure at age 96. Continuing east, we reach one of the most distinct sections of the cemetery, the lawn crypts, with a large crucifix as a centerpiece. West of the crucifix, we find the crypt of a big little star, Estelita Rodriguez. She was a Cuban actress, remembered for her many roles in mid-century westerns. She starred as Rosita in Belle of Old Mexico and Consuelo in Howard Hawks' Rio Bravo, alongside John Wayne and Dean Martin. She also starred alongside Roy Rogers in several of his films in the 40s and 50s. Estelita even formed her own production company, planning a remake of the Lupe Velez vehicle Spitfire. But the project never came to fruition due to Rodriguez's untimely death at just 40. She was found dead on her kitchen floor. Mystery still surrounds the circumstances, as no autopsy was performed, but her cause of death was later reported as the flu. Rounding the corner right, we arrive at the crypt of Bruce Yarnell. He studied opera and got his start singing on stage. As a baritone, he'd perform in such musicals as Annie Get Your Gun, Bye Bye Birdie, Carousel, and Oklahoma. Later in his career, he'd even perform in leading roles at the San Francisco Opera House. Bruce also had a career acting for film and television. On TV, he played Deputy Marshal Breeson on Outlaws, and on film, he played Hippolyte in Irma la Douce. Yarnell's life was cut tragically short when the single-engine plane he was piloting crashed into a mountain slope northwest of Los Angeles. He was 37. Making our way through the courtyards east, we find the crypt of Carl Lukas way up at the top. The actor is best remembered today for his role as Private Stash on The Phil Silvers Show in some 96 episodes. He also made appearances on shows like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Mr. Ed, Bewitched, The Monkees, and many more. He was principally known as a television actor, but appeared in films as well, like the war epic Tora Tora Tora. Carl lived to be 75. Around we go to the next section of crypts north to find Rosemary Planche, low on the wall. Rosemary came up through the world of beauty pageants, winning Miss California 3 years in a row from 1939 to 1941, and was crowned Miss America in 1941. At the same time, Rosemary was breaking her way into the movies. Her early roles were mostly smaller, uncredited roles. She's remembered today by horror fans for her top billing in 2 post-war productions, Strangler of the Swamp and Devil Bat's Daughter, both in 1946. She retired from acting in the 60s and took up painting. Rosemary died from cancer at age 55. Just a few spaces away, we find the crypt of Ted Fiorito. He was a composer and band leader popular in the 20s and 30s. His Fiorito Orchestra toured during the big band era and appeared in movies featuring vocalists like Betty Grable, June Haver, and Candido, who we visited earlier. They had hit recordings in songs like My Little Grass Shack in Hawaii and Toot Toot Tootsie.
Toot toot tootsie, goodbye. Toot toot tootsie, don't cry.
Ted would be inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1970. He died from a heart attack at age 70. Let's continue east to the edge of the lawn crypts to find the crypt of Michael Stroka. You fans of Dark Shadows will remember Michael for his roles as Aristide, Bruno, and Laszlo on the Gothic soap opera in the 60s and 70s. He'd go on to play Dr. Henderson on The Edge of Night and made guest appearances on other shows like Wonder Woman. And Michael's film roles include Detective Sims in Harlem Nights. He died from cancer at age 58. Let's head back out to the lawns. Just across the street north of the mausoleums is Section D. Here lies James Edward Grant. He was a screenwriter particularly known for westerns in the 40s through the 60s. James was nominated for an Oscar for his screenplay for the 1959 film The Sheep Man, which starred Glenn Ford. He also penned a number of John Wayne's most notable films like The Alamo, The Comancheros, Angel and the Bad Man, Hondo, and more. For his work, James would be twice awarded the Bronze Wrangler by the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. James Edward Grant died from lung cancer at age 60. In this same lawn, northwest of here, we find a man who may not have been the biggest name in cinema, but he did have the most fitting name in cinema, so let's pay him a visit. Meet Edwin Hollywood. He was a director during the silent era. Hollywood's films include Polly of the Circus with Mae Marsh, The Gauntlet with Harry Morey, and French Heels with Irene Castle. He only had about 13 credits to his name. Edwin Hollywood died at the age of 65. This is the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Just south of the statue is the grave of George Gobel. The actor and comedian had his own weekly variety show, The George Gobel Show, in the 50s and 60s, one of the era's top-rated shows. George would go on to be a regular panelist on the game show The Hollywood Squares, making around 500 appearances on the program. In the world of fiction, George played Mayor Otis Harper on the TV series Harper Valley PTA, and starred in films like I Married a Woman with Diana Dors. For his work on television, George won a Primetime Emmy. He lived to be 71, passing away following heart surgery. In the same lawn near the eastern end now, we find the grave of Joanne Marlowe. She was a child actress discovered in a very Hollywood kind of way. Her family was on a trip from Nebraska to Los Angeles when she was discovered at the age of 4 by a Warner Brothers director at a restaurant. The family subsequently moved to California, where Joanne would act in movies for the next decade. Her first role was in 1942's Yankee Doodle Dandy. 3 years later, she appeared in what would be her best-known film, playing Kay Pierce, the daughter of Joan Crawford's Mildred Pierce, in the film of the same name. Other films include A Scandal in Paris. She made her last film in 1950 before retiring from the screen to become a lawyer. In 1968, Joanne sustained injuries in a car accident, which brought on a cerebral hemorrhage. She was left in a comatose state for the next 22 years, passing away in her mother's home at the age of 55. The southeastmost section in the cemetery is Section A. Not far from the wall is a musician uniquely named Carmen Dragon. The composer and conductor worked in radio, film, and television, as well as live performances. Dragon wrote music for films like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Covergirl, which won him an Oscar for Best Musical Score. He also conducted the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra, with which he made several popular recordings. Carmen was the father of another notable musician, Daryl Dragon, better known as Captain from Captain and Tennille. He died from cancer at age 69. North of here is a lawn comprising sections E and F. Bordering the two sections is a small urn garden. Here we find the shared grave of sisters Eva and Jane Novak. both popular actresses of the silent era. Elder sister Jane began making movies in 1913, appearing in some 123 films throughout her career, well into the talkies. She had starring roles in films like Colleen of the Pines, The Snowshoe Trail, and Three-Word Brand with William S. Hart. Among her talkies are Ghost Town and Foreign Correspondent. She retired from acting in the 50s and lived to be 94. Younger sister Eva made her film debut a few years after Jane in 1917. Throughout her career, she'd appear in some 134 film and television productions. During the silent era, she starred alongside Tom Mix in around 10 films, like The Daredevil and Sky High. Other starring roles include Lure of the Yukon. Into the talkies, she appeared in films like The Phantom of the Desert. Eva also made guest appearances on television, on shows like Laramie, Tales of Wells Fargo, and The Alfred Hitchcock Hour. She died from pneumonia at age 90. Straight east of here, just in from the road, we find Allan Dwan. He was a pioneering Canadian motion picture director, producer, and screenwriter, principally of the silent era. Allan kept extremely busy between 1911 and the 1960s, directing an astounding 400-plus films. Of those, he also wrote and produced dozens. Dwan operated Flying A Studios beginning in 1911, one of the first motion picture studios in California. He made a number of westerns and comedies before directing fellow Canadian Mary Pickford in several of her successful films, like A Girl of Yesterday, as well as Douglas Fairbanks in films like Robin Hood and Bound in Morocco. In the talkies, he directed Shirley Temple in Heidi and Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, and John Wayne in Sands of Iwo Jima. Allan Dwan lived to be 96. North on this east side of Section F, not far from the road, is the grave of Philip Abbott. The actor made his biggest mark on television. Philip played the co-starring role of Arthur Ward in 241 episodes of the 60s and 70s crime drama, The FBI. Years later, he would play Grant Stevens on The Young and the Restless. And guest appearances include on shows like The Twilight Zone, Gunsmoke, The Magical World of Disney, and more. He also made a handful of films, including The Bachelor Party and Sweet Bird of Youth. Philip died from cancer at age 73. Further west on this same lawn at the base of a tree is the shared grave of husband and wife actors Dirk London and Jan Shepard. Ray Boyle, also known as Dirk London, appeared in close to 50 film and television productions in the 50s to the 90s. He was particularly known for his work in westerns, playing Wyatt Earp's brother, Morgan Earp, in the western television series The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp. He also made guest appearances on shows like The Adventures of Rin Tin Tin, Sergeant Preston of the Yukon, Gunsmoke, Death Valley Days, and more. He also appeared in films like Ambush at Cimarron Pass. His final on-screen role was in an episode of Beverly Hills 90210 in 1995. He passed away from complications of COVID at age 98. He rests here alongside his wife, Jan Shepard, also fondly remembered for her work as an actress in film and television. She played Betty Howard in some 256 episodes of the 60s series The Clear Horizon. She also played a nurse named Betty on Dr. Christian in the 50s, and made guest appearances on dozens of popular shows of the era like Gunsmoke, Perry Mason, Bonanza, The Virginian, and more. On film, she appeared in Attack of the Giant Leeches and alongside Elvis Presley in 2 of his movies. Jan was nearly as longevous as her husband, passing away from pneumonia at age 96. South now, near the border of Section Z and F, we find an actress named Angela Greene. She was born in Ireland and came to the States as a child. She began her career as a model before breaking into acting in the 40s. She had small roles in big films in these early years, like Mildred Pierce and Hollywood Canteen. She'd rise in the ranks to leading lady of B movies in the 40s and 50s, co-starring in films like King of the Bandits, Jungle Jim and the Forbidden Land, and Night of the Blood Beast. In the latter 2, she played a doctor. On television, Angela played Tess Trueheart on Dick Tracy, and made guest appearances on shows like M Squad, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Thriller, and Batman. Her final on-screen role was playing Mrs. Reed in Future World in 1976. Angela died from a stroke at age 56. Across the street north, we reach Section B. Just in from the eastern road is the grave of Jobyna Ralston. She's another who ranks among the popular actresses of the silent era. She's remembered for her on-screen chemistry with silent comedian Harold Lloyd, with whom she appeared in 7 films, like Hot Water and The Freshman. Other notable films of this era include Lightning and 1927's Wings, the very first film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. She made a few talkies, including Rough Waters with Rin Tin Tin, but retired shortly thereafter due to a noticeable lisp in her speech. Jobyna died from pneumonia at the motion picture country home at the age of 67. In the shade of a tree just north of here is Jimmy Aubrey. He was one of the very busy silent stars and supporting players in Hollywood in the first half of the 20th century, with close to 500 credits to his name, if you can believe it, often playing comedic roles. Jimmy began performing on the vaudeville stage and made his first appearance in the movies in 1915. He played a character called Heine in a series of dozens of shorts in 1915 to 1917. In the late teens, early 20s, he teamed up with Oliver Hardy, before Hardy teamed up with Stan Laurel. Into the 20s, Jimmy had starring roles in films like A Ghostly Night and The Messenger. While his status as a leading man diminished into the talkies, he still kept very busy, continuing to play supporting roles in hundreds of films into the 50s. Yet another nonagenarian on our tour today, Jimmy Aubrey lived to be 95. Continuing north in this eastern edge of Section B, we find the grave of Dick Foran, a B-movie matinee idol. The versatile actor and singer rose to prominence in the 30s, appearing alongside Bette Davis in Dangerous and The Petrified Forest. In 1936, Dick became one of the silver screen's singing cowboys in films like Song of the Saddle and Treachery Rides the Range.
I'll settle a score once more, settle a score.
He kept very busy in the decades that followed, appearing in a range of genres, including horror, comedy, drama, western, and musicals. His later years saw him on television, appearing on shows like Daniel Boone, The Virginian, Death Valley Days, Lassie, and many more. Dick Foran died from respiratory ailments at age 69. Just a little further north, right under a tree, is Frank Wilcox. He was another of the prolific supporting players resting here, with some 342 credits to his name. You fans of television in the 50s and 60s will remember Wilcox as Beecher Asbury on The Untouchables and as John Brewster on The Beverly Hillbillies. You also saw him in guest roles on shows like The Munsters, The Red Skelton Hour, Bewitched, The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show, and many more. His film roles include Fazier in The Ten Commandments and the Circus Doctor in The Greatest Show on Earth. Frank lived to be 66. Moving west into the lawn, we find the grave of James Westerfield. The actor got his start on the stage in the 30s and 40s, eventually appearing on Broadway. He began making movies in the 40s with small roles in films like The Magnificent Ambersons and The Pride of the Yankees. By the 50s, he had more prominent roles, playing Big Mac in On the Waterfront, Officer Hanson in The Absent-Minded Professor, and Judge Parker in True Grit. On television, he made appearances on The Andy Griffith Show, Lost in Space, The Twilight Zone, Green Acres, and more. James died from a heart attack at age 58. 2 spaces away, we find the newly marked grave of Edmund Lowe, a debonair leading man of the early silver screen. His film career began in 1915 and steadily rose into the talkies. Among his best-known roles are as Sergeant Quirt in 1926's What Price Glory. He would reprise the role in a number of sequels into the 30s. Edmund is also remembered for playing Chandu the Magician. He was a 12-time winner of the Photoplay Awards from 1927 to 1936 for films like Dressed to Kill, Good Intentions, and The Spider. On television, he appeared in 38 episodes of Front Page Detective. Edmund died at age 81. His grave remained unmarked until Samantha and Jessica from Marking the Stars started a campaign in cooperation with Edmund's next of kin and funded by fans to have this marker placed in 2019. Continuing west along this same row, we reach Pat Hogan. He was an actor of Native American ancestry from Oklahoma. He's remembered for his many roles portraying Native Americans on screen. He played Jim Eagle in 1953's Arrowhead, Yellowknife in The Nebraskan, and Chief Red Stick in Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. On television, he played Black Cloud in 19 episodes of Brave Eagle, and appeared on The Magical World of Disney, Tales of Wells Fargo, Cimarron City, Zorro, and more. Pat was just 46 when he died from cancer. This row of stars brings us now to the grave of Lee Moran. He was a prolific motion picture actor with close to 500 film credits to his name. Like many of his neighbors here, Moran got his start in the silent era, making his first movies in 1912. In the early years, he teamed up with Eddie Lyons in short and feature comedies. He'd also appear alongside the likes of Lon Chaney, Betty Compson, and Roscoe Arbuckle in this era. And in 1926, he appeared alongside Dolores Costello in The Little Irish Girl. His career continued into the 30s in films like The Death Kiss and The Aviator. Lee also wrote and directed around 100 silent films. He died from a heart ailment at age 72. Continuing northwest, on the other side of the St. Ferdinand statue, we find the grave of Ken Lynch. He was known for playing the quintessential tough Irish cop or detective. Early in his career, he played the lieutenant in 179 episodes of The Plain Clothesman. Then in the 70s, he played Grover in 16 episodes of McCloud. From the 50s to the 80s, he made guest appearances on nearly every major television show, often playing law enforcement officers, like The Dick Van Dyke Show, Zorro, Mike Hammer, Peter Gunn, Bonanza, and more. And on film, he played Charlie in North by Northwest and Detective Sergeant Durgo in Anatomy of a Murder. Ken lived to be 79. Doubling back to the southern end of Section B, right next to the road, we find Harry Tyler, another of Hollywood's incredibly hard-working supporting players, with close to 400 credits to his name. He got his start in the late 20s and by the 30s had small roles in big films like A Night at the Opera and Pennies from Heaven. One of his more memorable roles came in 1939, playing Joe Hungerford in 20,000 Men a Year. The following year, he played Bert in The Grapes of Wrath. He continued the pace of appearing in a movie nearly every month for the next 3 decades, including Pillow Talk and The Naked Street. He continued that pace when television hit the airwaves, appearing in numerous episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Cheyenne, Perry Mason, The Californians, The Roy Rogers Show, and his final TV appearance playing a drunk on the Jack Benny program in 1961. He died from complications of cancer at age 73. We've crossed over to the western end of Section B now. Along the border of double markers, we find the grave of Allan Carney. The actor was known for his work in comedy. After performing on vaudeville for years, he transitioned to film in the 40s. Teaming up with comedian Wally Brown, he was RKO's answer to Abbott and Costello in comedies like Zombies on Broadway, Genius at Work, and Girl Rush. He'd go on to do quite a bit of work at Disney, appearing in The Absent-Minded Professor, Son of Flubber, Blackbeard's Ghost, and Herbie Rides Again. And you fans of the ensemble comedy It's a Mad, 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 Mad World will remember him as the police sergeant. Carney died at age 63 from a heart attack, apparently brought on from the excitement of winning the Daily Double at Hollywood Park Racetrack. That'll do it for Section B. Let's cross the street west to Section G. Near a small tree, we find Peggy Knudsen. Early in her career, she landed a small but pivotal role as Mona Mars in the classic film noir The Big Sleep in 1946. That same year, she appeared alongside Joan Crawford in Humoresque. Other films include Perilous Waters, Roses Are Red, and Betrayed Women. On television, she played April Adams in 23 episodes of So This Is Hollywood. She also appeared on shows like Bat Masterson, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, and The People's Choice. Peggy suffered from arthritis in her later years and was cared for by friend and fellow actress Jennifer Jones. She died from cancer at age 57. Let's move on now to Section J to the north. Here lies Bill Quinn. The actor appeared in more than 200 film and TV productions. He played Sam in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, Leo in the Twilight Zone movie, and Ernie in Dead and Buried. And television audiences remember him as Frank Sweeney on The Rifleman and Mr. Van Rensselaer on some 88 episodes of Archie Bunker's Place, in addition to numerous appearances on shows like McHale's Navy, Newhart, The Odd Couple, Little House on the Prairie, and more. Bill's final on-screen role was playing McCoy's father in Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. He died from natural causes at age 81. Continuing east in Section J, just in from the road, we find the grave of Jean Willis, a popular actress in B-movies and television in the 40s to the 60s. Among Jean's memorable roles are as Nurse Sally in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and the starring role of Jean in The Winner's Circle. She also appeared alongside Abbott and Costello as the Venusian Captain Olivia in Abbott and Costello Go to Mars. And you fans of classic television will remember Jean for her role in one of the Twilight Zone's most iconic episodes, Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up? You also saw her on episodes of Bonanza, The Beverly Hillbillies, and Zane Grey Theater. Her last film appearance was as Rosie in Bite the Bullet in 1975 alongside Gene Hackman. Jean died from cancer at age 65. Her husband Jerry, who also rests here, was a professional football player for the LA Rams, Chicago Cardinals, and Philadelphia Eagles, playing in the 40s and 50s. Near the eastern end of Section J, not far in from the road, we pay a visit to a legendary actress we've recently lost. Here lies Teri Garr. Teri was beloved by audiences for generations, particularly for her comedic roles. She began appearing in film and television in the 60s, including appearances on shows like Batman, Star Trek, MASH, and That Girl. She gained notoriety for her roles in two notable films in 1974, Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation, and a co-starring role in one of my favorite films, Young Frankenstein, as Inga.
Oof. Hello. Would you like to have a roll in the hay? It's fun. Roll, roll, roll in the hay.
Her star rose in the years that followed, appearing in movies like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Mr. Mom, and Tootsie, which earned her an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress.
I didn't get it.
What?
They wouldn't even let me read.
What do you mean they wouldn't let you read?
I mean, they wouldn't even let me read. They said I wasn't right physically, that they wanted somebody tougher or something. I don't know, so I'm going home.
Okay, I'll walk you.
To San Diego?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about I'm going home. I'm getting out of here. I hate it here.
Teri also made us laugh on television, on shows like Good Advice, Women of the House, McCloud, and she played Phoebe's mother on Friends.
I'm your mother.
Later in life, Teri was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. She died from complications of the disease in 2024 at the age of 79. She rests here alongside her mother Phyllis, who worked in costumes and wardrobe on shows like That Girl and films including Young Frankenstein, which starred her daughter. Crossing over to the northern end of this section, we meet Barry Cahill. Among his memorable film roles are as Bigby Powers in Grand Theft Auto and Bud in Sweet Bird of Youth. You also saw Barry in Hang 'em High and Coffee with Pam Grier. And like so many of his neighbors here, he divided his time between film and television, appearing on shows like Have Gun Will Travel, The Virginian, Mission Impossible, and Highway to Heaven. Barry lived to be 90. Continuing our journey through San Fernando Mission, we double back to the western part of Section J. Walking south from the northern road, we find the graves of husband and wife George and Joyce Burdett. George was a television writer and producer known for his work in comedy. He wrote for 90 episodes of the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour and would go on to write dozens of episodes of the sitcom Three's Company and Three's a Crowd. He was also a producer on Three's Company and Three's a Crowd. Other shows he produced include Silver Spoons and 227. George was nominated for 4 Primetime Emmys. He lived to be 89. His wife Joyce was also a writer and producer for television. She's particularly known for creating, writing, and producing the TV series and made-for-TV movies Diagnosis Murder and Mystery Woman in the 90s and 2000s. Joyce was also a writer and producer on other mystery shows, most notably Matlock and Father Dowling Mysteries. She also wrote a best-selling novel, The Cracker Factory. Joyce lived to be 83. Not far southeast of the Burdetts, we find the grave of Charles Lamont. He was another of the notable film directors in these grounds, remembered particularly for his work in comedy. He directed many of the Abbott and Costello films in the 40s and 50s, as well as many of the Ma and Pa Kettle films of the same era. He would also work with the likes of Buster Keaton, Charlie Chase, and Shirley Temple, who he is said to have discovered. Later in his career, he would direct for Disney on television, including episodes of the Mickey Mouse Club, Zorro, and Annette. Charles died from pneumonia at age 98. Wow, I think this tour sets a record for longevity. And finally, we cross the street north to the northernmost section of the cemetery, Section M. Near a tree, we find the grave of Eddie Quillen. He began performing on vaudeville before making a series of comedy shorts in the silent era. His breakout role would be in 1929's The Godless Girl. In the 30s and 40s, he'd have prominent roles in some of the era's legendary films, playing Ellison in Mutiny on the Bounty and Connie in The Grapes of Wrath. In the 50s, he teamed up with Wally Vernon for a series of comedy shorts for Columbia Pictures, and also appeared in films like Brigadoon. He then made his way to television, becoming a familiar face to TV audiences of that era, appearing on shows like Little House on the Prairie, Death Valley Days, The Real McCoys, Petticoat Junction, and he played Eddie on the sitcom Julia. And you fans of the Addams Family will remember Eddie for his many appearances on the show, including as Mr. Digby.
Let me out of here. Relax, Digby, you're among friends. Please call my enemies. I gotta get out of here and find a job. That won't be necessary. You can go to work in any of my far-flung enterprises.
Eddie died from cancer at the age of 83. And that concludes our tour. What are some of your favorite memories of the stars we visited today? Share them in the comments below, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more famous grave tours. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Is it weird seeing me without a hat? It feels weird. I feel naked. Fun fact about me though, I don't actually like wearing hats, if you can believe it. I just started wearing one back in the day to avoid getting scorched in the LA sun when visiting cemeteries, and it kinda stuck. I didn't bring one today though, so I'm not here scorching in the LA sun. But that's neither here nor there. What I did want to say, as we wrap up our video today, is how much we enjoy being able to meet and spend time with you the fans. And while we know these occasions may be rare, we're excited to be hosting 2 events in the coming months where we hope to see you. First up is our Summerween movie get-together in Los Angeles, New York City, and Chicago to watch 2 short films together in a theater, followed by a Q&A and meet and greet. Those are in September and October. Then to celebrate Halloween in true Hollywood Graveyard style, we're doing our 3rd annual Halloween concert on Sunday, October 26th. Giuseppe and I will perform a program of music for you from the Hollywood Graveyard soundtrack and other pieces in the spirit of Halloween. It's always a great time, and this year will be better than ever. More details and information on how to get tickets to these events can be found somewhere on the screen here, or links in the description below. We can't wait to meet you all, to celebrate our mutual love together of movies, music, Hollywood history, and of course, graveyards.